Hello, this is Lee. I'm going to talk to you about the election going on in Texas. Well, there's a lot of information out there, false information. Basically, what they're saying is that the Democrats are doing really well in all the states, getting voters and stuff, but that's not the facts. I'm going to give you the most recent articles on what's going on with the election in Texas. And the most important thing is you'll understand why they really are lying in Texas. Okay, first of all, the rules for Texas. Texas is probably the best state when it comes to honest voting. They're pretty strict, but yet they're fair, and it's not impossible to vote. They don't make it too difficult. It's less difficult than driving a car and getting a license. What I wanted to show you, first of all, is this right here. This is what you need when you go vote. First of all, you need one of the IDs of a Texas driver's license. If you don't have that, you can have a concealed handgun license, or a personal state license, or citizenship certificate, a military ID, or a passport. There is no exceptions. When you go, you have to have these if you want to vote. So that's the most important thing. If you show up at the polls with this, and you have to be registered. And there is early voting, and the voting starts in 3 days from today. And after October 30th, you cannot early vote anymore. You have to go to the polls. So I just want you to see that. And this is votetexas.gov, any information you need to find out on voting in the area. Okay, and also, now I'm going to give you the most accurate reports on the most recent registrations for voting, and which is very interesting because you've been hearing something totally different. And so what I want to do is show you this right here. It says Republicans narrow voter registration gap in swing states. They're more than narrowing it. They're actually going ahead, and they have a nice healthy lead in a few of these states. And then once again, this is something they're not telling you about, but you know what? You're here, and I'm going to tell you about it. And here's what I'm going to do right here. I'm going to read you a little bit of this. Okay, there are still more people registered as Democrats than Republicans in the battleground states of Florida, North Carolina, Pennsylvania. But Republicans have been gaining ground. Actually, they're doing a lot more than gaining ground. They are multiple forces at play. Republicans are making strides with registered voters. The two-party system is losing its appeal, especially with young people. So that means a lot of people are going independent. And Democrats are being purged from the rolls as they either move out of state or they aren't showing up at the polls. And that's one of the reasons that Trump was so much against the mail-in voting, because they're sending ballots out to a lot of these people that are no longer in the states. They moved out of the state, and yet they're still sending them voting. Let's see. The people who have removed from the file since 2016 are more Democrats than Republicans. So basically, more Democrats are being removed from the rolls than are Republicans in these key states. And now we're going to go over the states a little bit. Here it says that the polls are showing Joe Biden with a 10-point lead among likely voters. But the lead narrows to within the margin of error in several key states, meaning the race could come down to who shows up at the polls on or before Election Day. And that includes mail-in voting. Both Trump and Biden's campaigns are actively working to boost their party registration. But you have to remember that the Trump campaign is knocking on doors, and they're 1 million voters a month. They're bringing to the polls extra, and they're knocking on over 1 million doors easily. And when they say that they're knocking on these doors, they're recording the people that they actually think are going to vote. And so here's how it is. This is the state. This is the most purple of all the states in the country, North Carolina. And they say the registered Democrats are down 6.17%. So they're talking about how close the state is. And we all know Trump won it in 2016. And yet they're down by -6. Registered Republicans are up by 3.47%. So that's nearly a swing of 10% right there if you combine these two numbers. So if in all reality, if the Republicans do what they say are supposed to do and show up at the polls, Trump should win the state easier than he won it in the last election, which, as you remember, was a nail biter and almost went to like midnight, I believe it was. Among the battleground states, Democrats have the greatest overall decrease in net registered voters in North Carolina. According to September voters registration numbers, they have 6.1% fewer registration voters than in November of 2016. So, once again, Republicans have gained 3.5. You put those two numbers together, here you have it, 10%. Though President Trump won North Carolina in 2016, Democrats still hold the overall advantage in a registered voters and elected a Democratic governor. And as for governors, Roy Cooper is considered a conservative Democrat, even though he's not, but he ran on that basis. And that's what we have to remember. And then if you go down to the next state, we're going to go to Pennsylvania here. So you see Pennsylvania. This is what happened so far in Pennsylvania compared to 2016. Total registration Democrats minus 1.5%. So they are down by 1.5%. Total registration of Republicans up by 3.7%. Most important thing, add these numbers together. That gives you the difference, and that's 5%. So that's a 5% increase for the Republicans in this state. In Pennsylvania, the state before 2016 hadn't selected a GOP presidential candidate since 1988, and Democratic voter registration has fallen by nearly 200,000, but they still hold an advantage by about 724,000 over the GOP. But once again, you're going to remember a lot of these 724,000 don't even live in the state anymore. They're just registered, and they're still there. What they're doing now is they're purging these people from the rolls, and hopefully within the next election cycle in 24, they'll have all those people, well, most of those people off the rolls that no longer live in the state. If only voters deemed active are counted, the margin shrinks to 550,000. So we're talking 250. This number is off by 250,000 that they know of, and that doesn't even matter. Well, once they investigate them, it's going to be a lot more. Some 7,500 more Democrats and Republicans have switched to a new party this year. So 7,500 more Democrats have switched parties than Republicans. If they're switching parties, that means a lot of them are going independent. And that means they're going to vote for Trump, because why are they leaving the Democrats if they're going to vote for Biden? They really have no reason to leave. And they don't want to be Republicans. And as we know, Trump really isn't a Republican or a Democrat. He's more in the middle. So these 7,500 people have left the Democratic Party also. And as we know, as close as that election was last 2016, every vote is going to count. To some extent, the registration reflects the regional shifts that took place in the 2016 election. Republicans have improved their voter registration standings in all three longtime Democratic counties that voted for Trump in 2016. Among them changes as significantly as Luzerne County, which Trump won by 25,000 votes. Republicans have narrowed the registration deficit by 12,500 to 22,000. We know that in 2016, with only 36% of registrations, they won by 58%. So the Republican Party is very, very happy with these numbers. Meanwhile, Republicans, for the first time in recent history, outnumbered Democrats in Western Pennsylvania's Westmoreland County, which has voted for Republican presidential candidates for 2 decades, but gave Trump a major boost in 2016. And let's see. So then basically, so what they're saying is Pennsylvania is more Republican now than it was in 2016. So anything you hear in the news, it just ain't true. I mean, they're making these claims that just are not true. Right now, the Democrats have outgained them, are being outgained by the Republicans in Pennsylvania and also in North Carolina. And those two states are huge. If Trump wins these two states, he wins the election uh, because most likely he'll win one of the other Rust Belt states. Okay, now let's go down to Florida. As we know, Florida is a very important state. But these three states right here, Florida, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, if Trump pulls these off, he wins easily. Okay, so registered Democrats have, it's a change of, they've increased by 5.8% change. Registered Republicans, 9.6% change. So basically, there's a 5% increase for Republicans over Democrats for registration since 2016. And as we know, Trump won that by a little bit over 1%. In Florida, both Democrats and Republicans have gained a total registration, of course, because a lot of people are retiring and still moving to Florida. Florida is like Texas. A lot of people are moving there. And Republicans are cutting into the Democratic advantage. Since 2016, Democrats have added more than 289,000 voters, about 5.8% change. Republicans have gained 442,000 voters, nearly 10% change. That closes the gap to 183,000 active voters. So these are active voters. These people are definitely going to vote. And they have gone toward the Republican Party and not toward the Democratic Party. And this is very important to remember. These counties here in Florida and the counties in North Carolina and Pennsylvania for the Congress, if they turn and go toward Trump, it most likely means that you're going to see a surprise come election night, and the House is going to be taken away from Nancy Pelosi, be the greatest thing that can happen, and the senators will hold on to the Senate. Okay, and then here's where we have some issues. Arizona. And as you know, Arizona is getting a huge population of Hispanics coming into the country. And the Democrats have outgained by 6% to Republicans. In Arizona, it's Democrats who are closing the gap, as it says. And we're going to be honest here and speak the truth and tell you exactly who's gaining in each state. Republicans in the state have added about 150,000 voters to their total. And but it comes out to only 12%, well, 6% less than the Democrats. But over 31% of the state aren't registered with either party. So you have a lot of independents there. That's why this state is always so close. No one knows which direction those independents are going to go. And this is an important part. Meanwhile, in the state's biggest county, that's Maricopa County, it was been a Republican stronghold for a long time. And that's right where Phoenix is. Republicans maintain their advantage. Data local GOP party officials have touted ahead in the general election, but the lead has fallen by nearly 150,000 more voters to just 84,000 more than Democrats. So don't be surprised if Biden pulls this state out on election night. But the reality is, if they do pull this out, they can also pull out, say, Wisconsin and Michigan. It still won't matter. If Trump runs the states the way he did last election, he will win. These are smaller states with a less amount of what they're going to lose. Okay, in November 2016, there were more than 3.5 million registered voters. As of September, the number was less than 3.5 million registered voters. This comes as hundreds of thousands of voters have been purged for the voter rolls since 2016. The battle over removing voters continue. Now, this is a good thing, because what they're doing is they're removing all the illegal voters or the people that have left the state. Arizona is a very transient state. You got people coming and going continuously. So a lot of people aren't voting because it's such a transient state. Now that's important, that these three states that I'm talking to you about, because what you have to remember is that with these three states right now, you're going to see a very, very big gain by the Republicans. And you're not hearing about that right now, unfortunately, because the media is going to lie to you and tell you something else is going on that's really not going on. So I would look for Trump taking the 3 states of Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Florida, having a tough time in Arizona, and Wisconsin and Michigan, pretty much the same thing. But the biggest myth is Texas. Now, I am from Texas. It's where I live right now. And I can tell you this much about Texas. Now, Texas is very much alike the other states. Many more Republicans coming into the state than Democrats. And you have a lot of Democrats leaving California and moving to Texas because of what's going on there. But here's the difference: when Californians moved to Denver and Colorado Springs and the Colorado area, most of the liberals moved there. But at that time, the liberals were happy with California, and they brought their beliefs to Colorado and turned that state into a Democratic state. The difference with the Democrats that are coming here to Texas, they're not happy. They've seen what liberalism has done to the state of California. And that's why they're coming to Texas, because of what liberalism with the taxes, the fires, people not taking care of the forestry. They're just letting everything stay on the ground there and burning down. All the riots, the crime, the traffic, the illegal immigrations. So these Democrats leaving California very much are Democrats, and they're probably going to stay Democrats or move to independence. But the difference is they really understand now what happens to liberal states like California, which is pretty much holy hell. Okay, well, that's pretty much what I want to discuss with you right now, and I'll just and the name of my station is Rise and Shine in Texas. Please like my station, and I'm going to have more reports like this for the next month, for real reports, accurate reports about the election. And I like to say thank you. Okay, you guys take care.